Have they ever seen another like me living giant type step in your house and put my head on your ceiling? Climbed out of the bottomless pit to let the truth slip and slide off my tongue and swine dive off my lips. No longer holding on, I'm tired of applying the grip. Forget the fancy shiny rappers, I'm supplying the gifts. I feel it's only right to tell you that I'm going in.
How's it going, everybody? This is your boy, Big Mike Raider, here with another video, a short, quick video. I want to talk about a little bit what they discussed about the Raiders post-game versus the Dolphins on Undisputed. You know, that's Skip Bayless' show. He has a good amount of people on the show. Sometimes he has rappers on there, Lil Wayne. He comes in there and puts up his good takes. In this case, we have Michael Irvin and Keyshawn Johnson, former NFL players. They've both been in the media for years at this point. They're some people even know more as being media guys before they think of them as being NFL players, especially if you're, under the age of, 25 or so, if I would say. But, I knew Keyshawn Johnson when he was in the league and, he was on the Jets, throw me the damn ball. He had the book and all that stuff. He's a typical wide receiver, but now he's in the media and he puts up good takes. And Michael Irvin, he's been in the media for years, very boisterous. That really gritty voice, that really deep, almost barking at you when he talks. Wasted talent. Shout out to him. He makes a good impression on Michael Irvin. Kind of going, kind of sounds like that. But besides that, he makes good takes. In this one, now shout out before I get started. Shout out to GA Patriot. He slid this one under my desk. It was a quick clip, like I said, a post-game reaction from the Dolphins and Raiders game. And, you guys know how the media is, the mainstream media. If they do give us, the Raiders, a compliment, it's going to be backhanded. That's usually how it goes. But in this case, they're giving us some praise. They're giving the Raiders some praise, particularly with our new interim head coach, Antonio Pierce. And Keyshawn Johnson, towards the middle of the clip, which I'm going to show you, he kind of sends a strong message to Mark Davis. And you guys will hear it. Michael Irvin chimes in again a little bit down the line, and then Skip Bayless real quick at the end kind of makes a quick chime in on this clip. But guys, before I get started, if this is your first time on this channel, make sure you guys like the thumb, hit the sub, and share with your folks. Now with that, guys, I'm going to show the clip for you guys, and I'm going to give you my reaction on that one. All right, here we go.
I've said a million times here, guys, and you guys have heard me say it, I measure men in distance travel. Don't tell me about where you are. Tell me about where you're starting. I shall measure where you are accordingly. When you start talking about measuring this team, distance travel, remember just a couple weeks ago, this was disaster. It was disaster as you sat there and watched Davante Adams crying on the sideline and everything. It was horrible. Now, they win 2 games. I went to spend some time with Antonio Pierce in the Raiders, and I'm going to tell you something, man. They made me feel like one of the guys, When I first got to Davante, ran up to me, grabbed me, They brought me in, took me, I hung out with me in the locker room, took me upstairs and let me address the whole football team. Then afterwards, I went in and sat with Antonio Pierce in his office. He's still in his same coaching office, the assistant office. I said, hey, big fella, why we're not in the big room right now? He said, I told him I'm not moving twice. If you move me over there, I'm going to stay over there. I'm not moving back up, so I'm going to just stay until it's permanent. And I was like, that's such a grind mentality, you know what I mean? And he said to me, and I hope I'm not out of turn, he said, man, I said, what do you tell your team? What is it, 14-point favorites, Key?
Yeah.
Something like that. I said, what do you tell your team when you're down 14? He said, I've never said anything about a spread to my team before. But I have to this time because in this change that we're going through, I have to say to them, and he said to them, this is what people think of you. Now you go show them what you think of you. And I think they did. They showed you what they think of themselves. They showed up and played. He is a defensive coach. He's a defensive coach. You say, Coach, what do you have to stop that offense and slow that offense down? He came up and he showed up and he put a game plan together to keep it under 20. Now, keep it at 20. Now, he has a rookie quarterback who made some plays the last couple of weeks, but he tasted his first loss last night. I thought it was an incredible job by Antonio Pierce, by the Raiders going into Miami in a tough place that they've torched everybody else, and they stayed right in that game to the end. They never stopped fighting.
Here's what I would say about this game, though, Skip, and all in all. Michael mentioned it. Antonio Pierce is still in the assistant coach's office, basically a cubicle. Hadn't moved. He's still sitting in one. This is what I would tell Mark Davis. I've seen enough. No, I've seen enough, Skip.
I understand.
I don't need to go and do an interview. I've seen enough. The fact that in these 3 games, you've won 2, you've gone on the road to Miami in a dogfight. You came out of there with a rookie quarterback that threw 3 interceptions, that made some key mistakes down the stretch. Instead of taking easy money and staying in it methodically, he's trying to hit home runs. He's missing Davante Adams. I mean, he's doing things that a rookie would do.
Right.
If you had a quarterback that was competent, you win that game.
Sure.
You win the football game. So if I'm Mark Davis, I'm going to talk to the president of the team today. I'm going to talk to the general manager today.
Yep.
And then we're going to get together with Antonio Pierce, and we're going to tell him it's your team. Finish this deal and take us to the promised land. That's what, even if they lost every single game the rest of the year, he started in an unfair advantage to begin with.
He did.
And he's got them playing football. So
Right.
Mark Davis, be smart and just get it done. No, there's no need to waste the, just get it done.
And don't go through this again. I believe when Bisciotti got let go and brought in Josh McDaniels, I believe those players were trying to talk to you. That was an incredible season. You remember the John Gruden and all of that, and these guys came together, they fought, and they got in the playoffs, and then you went in a different direction. You can't make that mistake again. Now, let me tell you something. When I'm leaving the building, guys are running up to me trying to grab me. Let me say something. Let me tell you something. And you can feel like they want to say, hey, man, we got our coach. Because they know I'm on TV. We got our coach. We know what we're doing. These guys have taken control of that team, taken ownership of that team. I used to come across that office talking to Coach and asking Coach what we're going to do. He listens to him. He listens to him. I hope I'm not out of line again. One thing that was the issue was the players felt like they were not being listened to. At one point, Coach would look at these cards all the time and he says, I want you to pay attention to me as a player. Stop looking at that piece of paper. That's how those players work. And I believe Antonio Pierce sees them as players, and you guys got to pay attention to that.
Am I wrong, Skip, that Mark Davis should just go ahead and get it done?
You're not wrong.
Right.
So you guys heard what the guys from Undisputed have to say. Skip Bayless, Michael Irvin, and Keyshawn Johnson. Here's my thoughts on what they said. Now, Michael Irvin, he did mention quickly distance travel from where they are, where they were a few weeks ago at this point, to where they're going. And, you can't deny it right now. It's been a far distance travel. It's been almost night and day. What you see in the locker room from when Josh McDaniels was under the helm to now in Antonio Pierce under the helm. And I think that's a big deal. Like, usually you don't see drastic changes that quickly when an interim head coach comes in. A change of culture happened that quickly when you get a new head coach like that. And that says a lot about what Antonio Pierce is doing leadership-wise as a leader of men, showing that he's commanding that respect, commanding that that presence, that respect for his football background, right? This is a former player, like we said. We all know his background at this point, and he took his background, he took everything that he's worked for at this point, and he's kind of pouring it back onto the team, and you're seeing it on the field, right? You're seeing it in the locker room. These guys respect what he's done. So as far as distance travel, this is the furthest distance travel in such a short time. You're seeing a Raiders team that was looking like a basement team at the beginning of the season. And now you see them as maybe a playoff contender if you can get the offense together, right? But the defense is already playoff ready. And, you know, Michael Irvin also said something about going in there feeling like one of the guys. Davante Adams, you know, grabbed him, brought him in, was like, hey, I'm one of, you know, he felt like one of the guys. This is a former NFL player saying this, guys. This is a former NFL player who's been on championship teams. And for him to feel like he's kind of at home, that tells me that we're heading in the right direction as far as what Antonio Pierce is doing. And, you know, as far as Antonio Pierce goes, as far as his, you know, how he's approaching the whole thing, right, as being the interim coach, he's still in that grind mode, which really is inspiring, right? He didn't move his stuff. Now, I know he's saying that, you know, if he moved in there, then he doesn't want to move again, right? Part of me thinks that he's like, okay, I haven't earned that permanent spot yet, so I'm going to stay in my cubicle, my small cubicle, and keep grinding because that's going to keep me motivated. And then I'll eventually earn myself. I will earn to get into that spot once I've been given the keys permanently. That's how he thinks. That's how I would think. I personally, and I know a lot of you guys will think that as well, would be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to stay in here until I get the permanent spot. I'm going to keep grinding. I want to show that I'm a grinder. I'm not, you know, kicking my feet back and made it right here. I want to show that I absolutely deserve this head coaching spot. And I love the fact that he's staying in that small cubicle and staying still in that grind mode, not taking the big spot and you know, not getting a temporary taste of the big time and kind of just moving on. He wants to continue grinding and shows that what kind of person he is, what kind of, you know, how he approaches everything. And the little things matter. And I think the team sees that as well. It's very inspiring. Michael Irvin also talks about addressing the 14-point spread, you know, saying, okay, this is what they think of you. Now go and show them what you think of you. And that's so empowering. That's so motivating. And you saw it on the field on Sunday. Now we came up short. The offense came up a little bit short. You know, but we got a young 4th-round quarterback in his 4th game. Didn't get any first team reps in the offseason. Didn't get any first team reps in training camp, rookie mini camp, none of that. He didn't get to work with the number ones at any point, but he's here mid-season now trying to figure things out with a whole new offense. Now, side note, for the people who are saying Aiden O'Connell needs to be benched, he needs to sit down, he sucks, this and that, really take into consideration everything that's going on. New offense. Never got to see the first team reps. And then he's throwing out there feet to fire. I said it last week. If the Raiders want to win this game, Aiden O'Connell has to put his big boy pants on. And you know what? He put his big boy pants on and he fell short. And I'm not going to hold him against that. I think that he came out there and played well. And I really commend Antonio Pierce for putting the feet to fire and telling him, hey, we're going to need you to make some plays if we want to win this game. Now, on the flip side, you know, there was a couple of questionable plays. Bo Hardegree, I will say, he didn't have the best play calling game. We should have ran the ball a lot more. That's what should have happened. But, you know, considering that, you know, what we're dealing with, a rookie quarterback with little to no reps at the beginning of the season, and, you know, the running game couldn't get started because that Dolphins defense was better than advertised. And, you know, you put it in the AOC's hands at some point and was like, hey, we got to, you got, if you want to win this game, it's got to be in your hands. I commend him for that. I commend Antonio Pierce for putting the feet to fire and putting the confidence in there offensively. Now, it didn't work out, but it's okay. Now, back to the main topic, right? Keyshawn Johnson also mentions, he sends a strong message to Mark Davis, right? Saying, hey, enough with the coach searching, enough with the Jim Harbaugh coming in talks, enough with all this. He didn't say that per se, but this is what I'm saying. He said, basically, Mark Davis needs to have a conversation with the president and the general manager and be like, okay, this is time. We need to stop searching for guys. We need to close the search. We have the guy in the building right now. Let's give the keys to Antonio Pierce. Some people think that it's premature to do so. I don't think so. I think it's time. I think he's shown at this point, like what I've just mentioned, the distance travel, made it a long way from where we came from. Feeling like one of the guys, you know, a former NFL player saying that he feels like one of the guys coming in, the way he approaches the game, the way he approaches preparing, the way he approaches scratching and clawing, still staying in that small cubicle, that mindset pours on to the team. And that needs to still be here. That needs to still be in this building. We can't let that leave this building. And, you know, Michael Irvin also chimes in on that, right? Says, don't make the same mistake twice. Now, the same mistake twice is not hiring Rich Bisaccia when we had a chance, you know, back in 2021 after that playoff run, when guys were playing with their hair on fire, running through brick walls for this guy. We are given a second chance to have a guy who is player first, a guy who motivates and can get these guys to run through a brick wall. We got our second chance, and I think that Mark Davis needs to go in and give the keys to Antonio Pierce. I think it's time. I think it's time for us to stop making the coaching search. I don't want to hear anything about Jim Harbaugh. Now, I know people really want Jim Harbaugh after one loss and this and that. But let me tell you something about Jim Harbaugh, right? This kind of reminds me of a Josh McDaniels. This kind of reminds me of a John Gruden type of hire where he's going to want to be the de facto GM. He's going to want the control. This is a guy who's done something the first time and it worked, and now he's coming back for a second time. I don't want any part of it. I want a fresh face. I want a motivator, and I want him to build his team in his image. I want Champ Kelly, the GM, to build this team in his image. I want them to work together in synergy, not a control, I'm in control type of deal, but putting their heads together and building a team, starting with the defense. Now, the defense looks great. The defense almost is on that cusp of elite. Now, if we bring a couple more guys in there and draft well and then bring a quarterback of the future, who's to say we can't compete for a Super Bowl next year in a couple years? I think that Antonio Pierce is building that culture for us to do so at this point and bring somebody, whole new person in, trying to bring a whole new offense, a whole new culture and things like that. I think that is franchise malpractice, and I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it again. I don't want to splash head coach, splash acquisition. Everybody, gets talking and all that stuff. We've done it twice before and it didn't work out. I don't want to see it. I think that Antonio Pierce is the guy, and the guys on Undisputed think so as well. Skip Bayless says it at the end that he thinks that Antonio Pierce should be given the job as well. But guys, what do you guys think about that one? I spoke a little bit too long. I got high-winded on that one, but I really feel passionate about this. We need to go and make Antonio Pierce our permanent head coach of the future so we can move on. And, when the offseason comes, we already got the head start. We already got the culture built in. We don't have to rebuild. We got the guys already here. The defense looks good. Bring some acquisitions. The Antonio Pierce effect, where these free agents want to come in and actually play on the Raiders, as opposed to when we had Josh McDaniels, when people wanted nothing to do with the Patriot way. That's what I want to see. I want to see us build from what we have right now at this moment, because here's the reality. Teams aren't going to go undefeated. We just lost to the number one offense in the NFL at home, where they put up 38 points per game at home, and we allowed them only 20 points. We have to keep what we have on this field right now, in this locker room, in the building right now, and build from there, guys. Now, what do you guys think about that? I want to hear from you. Now, with that, I'm your boy, Big Mike Raider, writer and contributor for Planet Raiders. You guys have a good one. Take care.
Have they ever seen another like me living giant type step in your house and burn my head on your ceiling? Climbed out of the bottomless pit to let the truth slip and slide off my tongue and swine dive off my lips. No longer holding on, I'm tired of applying the grip. Forget the fancy shiny rappers, I'm supplying the gifts. I feel it so